Good morning, everybody. Hey, happy Wednesday. Tuning in here from Ojai. Spectacularly gorgeous day. It just feels like summer already, but not so hot quite yet. Hey, Liz, nice to see you. And there's Itai. I'm so thrilled to have you on the program this morning. Itai Bar is my guest this morning, everybody. And let me bring you on. Okay, there we are. Let's bring you on. It's an amazing morning today. We had a spectacular benefit last night for Would You Hide Me? And there you are, Itai. So go ahead.
Hi.
Yeah, yes. Turn the
Yeah.
camera
Yeah.
that way. How are you this morning? Well,
Let's do
actually, it's
that.
not the morning for you. Are you in Jerusalem? Where are you?
It's even quite the evening, quite late in the evening. Yeah,
Well,
all
I
right.
hope I hope
This
we're
is
not keeping
sorted,
it
I
too
think.
late.
No,
And I
it's 8 p.m.
8 p.m. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not too
Yeah.
late. That's not so
No.
bad. But I see that
Yeah.
our mutual friend Alyssa Shapiro has just joined. So happy
Yes.
to have you, Alyssa. And Alyssa actually referred me to you. And I'm so excited to learn about your work and and everything that you have been doing to just bring the conversation of Holocaust awareness to the forefront. Itai, you're incredible, and I want everyone to learn about all the work that you're doing. So Itai is the director of marketing for Ghetto Fighters House in Israel, and so let's just jump right in. But I'm just so thrilled to welcome so many people that are coming on the call. Gali, Eden, Shira, thank you so much for being here this
Oh
morning.
yeah. I
Um,
see people that I know that I don't think I've ever encountered them on Instagram or in any other
oh,
form
cool.
of this sort. So it's very interesting.
Oh, good. Well, one of us is doing something right when it comes to marketing. If we're getting your friends on that you haven't interfaced with yet on Instagram, right? Um, but so let's just start from the very, very. So let's just start with Ghetto Fighters House, okay? Let's let everybody know who, because even if they're not on the call right now, we do put the replays. People can rewatch
Yeah.
this interview on YouTube, and I just love it when people stumble across things that they just never knew anything about. And Ghetto Fighters House is something that I never knew anything about. So tell us
Oh,
when it
yeah.
was founded.
That's the case
Yeah,
with many people.
tell us about Ghetto Fighters House and what the mission is, when it was founded, how you became involved, all those kinds of things.
So first, thank you for having me here, and thank you for Alyssa Shapiro who connected who made the connection between the two of us. And I'll apologize up front because we might hear some barkings of my dog or cryings of my 7 weeks-year-old baby.
Oh,
So it's
mommy love. Oh,
so
how
yes, so it's a very noisy
wonderful.
house in the past few weeks, and so apologies for upfront. Um, and dive right to the point. So the Ghetto Fighters House is it's basically one of the first institutions in the world that engraved on its mission the commemoration of the Holocaust on one hand, and the assistance or the aspiration to build a better future. We're talking about a group of young people, mostly in the 20s and 30s, who arrived to Israel, who made Aliyah to Israel after the Holocaust between 1945 and 1950. And they already came to Israel with the idea that they're going to establish a kibbutz, a community. So they already uh, uh, built that kibbutz in their imagination already in Poland. This is what's, I think, one of the most amazing parts. While they were in their youth movement, when they were teenagers, they sat down with their guides. Maybe it was in Warsaw, maybe it was in Kaunas, maybe it was in Minsk or somewhere around, and they spoke about the idea of living in a country where the majority is Jewish, um, the Zionist state, and they were talking about building the perfect life, or the perfect Jewish life for themselves. And that idea followed them, or they carried it with them throughout their upbringing, through the war, and passed it into the immigration process. And then when they arrived to Israel, after all that journey, which I described it in a couple of sentences, but we're talking about years of hardship and unimaginable conditions, they ended up in Israel. And in 1949, they gathered from different parts of the country, and they established a kibbutz. And I don't know if it blowed your mind like it did when I understood the meaning of what they did. If it blew your mind, but it is mind blowing to think about that group doing all that way from the youth movement to that little settling area when they laid over their tents and their gear and decided, okay, this is where we're going to build the kibbutz. But what is mostly amazing is that on that very day, April 19th, we're coming close to it, April 19th, 1949, they also decided to build the museum.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided to build a community, continue their life, and also to remember their story, commemorate their history.
So is the
So
ghetto?
this is in a nutshell. In a nutshell.
Right. That's just a little
Well,
bit.
yeah.
And so is the museum also called the Ghetto Fighters House?
The museum is called the Ghetto Fighters House.
Yes.
It lays within the Ghetto Fighters kibbutz.
So it's inside of the kibbutz, but
Yes.
it is open to the public, so other people can come and view the museum.
Oh, yes. Obviously, it's a
Right. Good.
public institution.
Absolutely. That's amazing. It is amazing. Go back a little bit even more. You're saying it's a group of youth. And so this particular group, in and around what year do you think they began the kernels of this idea? And are you saying they came from all different parts of Eastern Europe or from one
Yes.
particular town?
No, they came from different parts, mostly from Poland and Lithuania. All of them were members of Dror Youth Movement. Dror Youth Movement, DROR, a very famous Zionist youth movement that was established in Europe from the turn of the century, from the beginning of the 20th century, and I think a lot of members of kibbutzim in Israel today were members of that youth movement. We have the I would say the continuation of that youth movement today, embedded in another youth movement which is called the Noar Haoved Velomed. It's the daughter or the son of that old youth movement, and they sat with their groups. I believe it was in the 1920s. I don't believe. We know that it was in the 1920s when they already decided that this is the way. I mean, we have to acknowledge that Zionism was not the most common notion in Eastern Europe back in the day. It was rather a minority movement. People were actually looking at Zionists and telling them, Jewish people from the Jewish community were telling the Zionists that they are dreaming, they are just, hallucinating even. And part of the fact that the adult world represented that, I would say, that doubt that was expressed towards those teenagers. A lot of doubt was expressed towards their dream. But then again, they had the doubt on their side, on the youngsters' side, they had the doubt if they want to continue and live in a country which don't respect their identity, which don't recognize their identity as unique. And they looked back at their adults, at their parents, at their grandparents with criticism. They were critical towards them. And this is what I think what part of what's beautiful about the Zionist movement back in the 1910s and 20s in Europe, that it had this rebellious nature. These youngsters, those who established the Ghetto Fighters Kibbutz and other kibbutzim as well, they rebelled from the day they understood who's against who in the world. They rebelled against their parents. Some of them left their parents' house when they were 14 years old, moved to a different setting of living, something they refer to as a kibbutz where they trained and they were taught how to live kibbutz life. They were training in agriculture. They were training in Hebrew because obviously they didn't know how to do those things. And then they gathered all this experience and they prepared themselves. They were really prepared to do the great journey, to do the Aliyah journey, and to go and establish that kibbutz in Israel. With the same concept. Now I don't recall where we started this point, but what I wanted to put the emphasis on is the correlation between the fact that that Zionism was a rebellious movement by itself, and the fact that it found a lot of grip with the youngsters, with the young adults, the teenagers and young adults of the Jewish community. And why so? Why is it important? Because youngsters, as the creature that they are, they are rebellious in their way. So this was almost a natural combination between a young movement that is looking at the world very differently, and young people who are looking at the world very differently and critically. It came together. I'm holding my hands against each other, and when it came together, it was so powerful that it could not be stopped, even when the horrors of the Holocaust met those groups and forced them to reevaluate, reassess their dreams. They still, well, this is, I'm pretty much moving forward to probably our next subject, but they, even through ghetto life, when they were forced to live in a closed quarters of the city of Warsaw, they sat in their apartments and they spoke about the dream. They never stopped processing and thinking about the future and about the dream. And possibly this is what motivated them to rise up and fight the Nazis eventually in every ghetto that had an uprising which took place in it. It was that layer of society, the members of youth movements, of Zionist youth movements, who rose up against the Nazis and delivered a different message and gave us something different to remember. So this is the ethos of the Ghetto Fighters House. Again, in a nutshell.
I think it's amazing, and you're right. It is mind-blowing when you think about that. This group began its seeds in the 1920s, if not earlier, and it survived, or at least perhaps it culminated at the end of World War I. They sensed the anti-Semitism and vitriol that was coming towards them, being blamed for losing the First World War, et cetera, and so forth. And then living through 12 years of Nazi rule, coming out the other side of the Holocaust to eventually emigrate and establish the state of Israel and establish the Ghetto Fighters House. I mean, it sounds like the Ghetto
Hmm.
Fighters House was actually established before the state of Israel was established. So,
In a way,
yeah, yeah,
in a way,
and
but
so
it was established in 1949, so
right,
a year after the fact.
but it is mind blowing. And what I'm particularly taken with, and why I'm so excited to talk to you today, is this whole notion that it is the youth that is making the change. Youth are coming together to brain. I forgot to
Yeah.
make my phone go on night mode,
Okay,
whatever.
fine.
Uh, and
It's all good.
and they're all coming together, and this all kind of melds into these connections. I mean, life, as far as I'm concerned at this point, my life is all, you know how they say 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon? You've heard this expression, the actor Kevin Bacon?
I heard this expression.
Okay,
I don't think
well,
I don't think I'm equipped to use it.
yeah, so my life is 6 degrees of Alyssa Shapiro. Okay, so it's all these things coming together, and what I'm so taken by is starting to really, all the research that I've been doing and listening to, that it's coming to a head with people such as yourself. So let's just talk about Rachel Cerruti for a moment and talk about We Share the Same Sky and the podcast that she developed. I listened to it, I want to say about 2 years ago. And my cousin Lynn had introduced me to the podcast, and I'm listening to this podcast and I'm saying, oh my gosh, this is the trip that I'm about to take. This is exactly what I'm doing. I remember being in my hotel room, having appointments I needed to go to, you know, popping out of the shower, getting dressed, putting your makeup on, listening to this story, saying, I have to cancel these appointments. I just want to sit here and listen to this story. And,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course,
It's flabbergasting. It's
yes,
yeah,
yes, it really, really is. And there's something that she says in the clip that you shared
yeah,
in your podcast. I believe it was last Sunday or the Sunday
yeah.
before
True.
when you were
Yeah,
interviewing her. But there's this notion that retelling history becomes history itself. And I found
yeah.
that to be very moving and very, very meaningful, and wanted to learn more about the things that you are doing with Ghetto Fighters House today to reach out. How was it that you came to meet Rachel, and what are the activities and things that you guys are doing right now to fulfill the mission that you have?
Well, I'll answer the second part of the question first. The Ghetto Fighters, since its establishment, decided that it wants to use the museum not just as a place of preserving memory and preserving artifacts and etc. It wants to educate. The first guides were the Holocaust survivors, were the establishers of the kibbutz, were the people who walked on those uh, on the grounds of those camps which they explained about. Um, and and a few decades later, uh, uh, myself and the team, what we're trying to do is we're not trying to teach about the Holocaust. I would say it's not a lesson as a history lesson is supposed to take place. It's more of a lesson with the Holocaust, or learning from that history. And this is something I think that is a bit unique, not very unique, because I know of other institutions who also take this approach and try to understand what can be learned from the Holocaust that is beyond the facts and numbers themselves. So, so we're trying to look at human decision making. We're
Mm-hmm.
trying to look at um, how we understand the world today with or compared to how people saw the world during those times, and the extremity that took place then, and how does it reflect on us. I mean, it doesn't mean that every morning I need to compare my life to a person who lived through the Holocaust. No, that definitely is not the case. what we are trying to encourage is to find those dots of inspiration of human behavior and of heroism, which
Yes.
is one of our core values, um, and to try and bring some of that into our lives today. We believe that you cannot detach the past and present, and this is in some cases, some people are trying to do that, to say this is the past. It was. We should speak about it, but in past tense. I believe, and I think that the institution I represent believes that human character didn't change that much since World War II. The way we behave, the way we act towards each other, the way we think about each other, the way we operate in our societies and our communities did not change that much. So all those things that we point to that were wrong during the Shoah, during the Holocaust, um, racism, intolerance, murderous actions, obviously, etc. All those things are essentially still taking place in different forms, in different shapes, in different capacities, but they're still here. And we have to be aware of them, and we have to learn about them in order to recognize those warning signs, in order to be vigilant towards them, to operate against them. And the end game, or the end point, what we are trying to get our crowds to eventually comprehend, is that they have to act. They have to be active. They cannot sit quiet. Activism is the antidote to racism or to intolerance. Whenever you recognize one of those elements, if you won't be active, if you'll be indifferent, then you're not actively contributing, but you're definitely passively, or you're too passive in order to counter those things from happening. So
Well, I think this
that's
notion of
that's
being
that's the idea.
complicit with anything today
Yeah.
is terribly important for all of us to address. We have, one of the things that we keep talking about at our dinner table is this idea that certainly in the last 4 years, but probably longer, it's just every man for himself and not really worrying about your neighbor, not worrying about your brother or your sister, and just taking care of your own. And
Yeah.
what does it take to not remain neutral? What does it take to actually take an active stance, whether it's respectfully disagreeing with somebody, having civil discourse, but at least making your position known that something is not acceptable, it's not
Mm-hmm.
tolerated. This sense
And this
of,
and this is what we. So sorry.
no, just the sense of complicity is unacceptable. And, it was
Yeah.
never acceptable, but it became
No.
very normalized. And I
Oh,
think
it.
that we're at a
Yeah.
point in history for sure where it is not acceptable. Being complicit right now is not acceptable. Does it mean you have to go out to a march? No. But what does it
Mm-hmm.
mean for you personally to not be complicit?
And this is what the Ghetto Fighters founders wanted to deliver. This is the message. They said, we were there in the ghetto. We saw everything that was happening around us. We saw the Jewish Council, the Judenrat. We saw them working with, or it's a bit of a complicated issue, but working for the German occupier. We saw people giving up. We saw the adult world again, just lowering their heads and waiting for the next blow to hit them, and not fighting back. But we, as youngsters, and as people who don't accept reality as it is, we believe that reality is something that you can shape, something you can contribute
Mm-hmm.
to create a better one, if you'd like. We fought. We rose against an unbelievable and unimaginable power, and we fought against them. And it's not because we were, I don't know, dreamers, that we thought that we will win the Nazi army, or we will beat the SS. They were not, even for a second, they were not convinced in that. What they did think that their act will represent is when good fights evil, even when the chances are very low to the point where they don't exist, to win. But it had to be done. It had to be done for the Jewish honor and for the human honor, because fighting fascism, fighting Nazism was not it was not about good, just good against evil. It was humanism against anti-humanism, against people who were basically for denying it, dehumanizing others.
Absolutely. My mother often says, my mom is a survivor, and people ask her, where was God? What is your stance on God? Where was God during the Holocaust? And her response is, it has nothing to do with God. Where was humanity? It has to do with
Yeah,
humanity, plain and simple. That's
that
what was missing.
that
How
exactly.
did you come to be involved with the Ghetto Fighters House, and what's your story? What's your relationship to the Holocaust? Are you the child of survivors, the grandchild of survivors? How did this become your passion and your life's work?
Oh yeah, that's a question that I still ask myself occasionally, because it is a bit of a weird case. I think it's not natural.
Okay.
It's not natural that someone my age takes this journey and becomes a person who specializes in Holocaust education and investing almost every effort to promote this type of education here in Israel, specifically in the Ghetto Fighters House. I'm the grandchild of a survivor, of survivors. I only know my grandmother, who is still alive, still with us.
Wonderful. Good.
She's 93 years old.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, and still she still has it. She's still there.
I'm sure she
She's
does.
yeah, she's pretty amazing. And she was she, we can probably put her in the group of Hungarian Jews that were deported quite towards the last parts of the war. May 1944, she was deported to Birkenau, to Auschwitz, and managed to survive 9 months of hell, including a death march, which she eventually managed to leave with her mother and somehow wake up in a barn where a Russian soldier, a Soviet soldier, uh, talks to them in Russian and tells them that the war is over, they can go out.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it's a crazy story. If you see just the route of where she went and how much distance she covered by train and by foot, it's yeah, unimaginable. But she has a big part, obviously, in creating the person, the character I am today, and I don't think she intended to do that. I think that during somewhere around the end of the 90s, which is almost, I can say it's already a long time ago, she only started telling her story. So for 55 years, after raising two daughters and grandchildren, she never spoke. She never spoke about the Holocaust. She never spoke about her experiences, and something triggered that. Something that I'm not sure, but I think it was my mother's request to come with her on this delegation to Poland. We have these students delegations that go to Poland and visit the camps, and I think that triggered uh, my grandmother's need to tell her story and then to write it and then to even tell it to her uh, youngest grandchild, which is me.
How old were you when she told you?
I was 12. But the funny thing is, or I don't know if it's funny, it's kind of maybe a bit even traumatic, is that she entered my classroom, my sixth it was the sixth grade, and she entered to my classroom somewhere in proximity to Holocaust Memorial Day here, and she started just telling the story of what happened to her without any filter, without any experience in telling it. It was one of the very first times that she told the story, and it was in front of 12-year-olds.
Mm.
Today, as an educator, I will say that's a big no-no. It's too young. And the fact that it wasn't censored, I mean, the rough parts weren't censored, that it's a bit too much for the soft soul of a 12-year-old. But I was sitting there, and again, my mind was blown with the story of the person who is very close to me, basically raised me, because we would go to her place after school and after kindergarten, and she would feed us
Mm. Mm.
and discipline us because she's a tough lady. and then I found that this is a different person. She has this huge wound inside her that I was not aware of.
So is the
And I think
first time
that,
you heard her story in front of all of your classmates?
yes,
Wow.
yes,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's
And
heavy.
my
That's
classmates
heavy.
were crying, and I was like, I don't know. I took a leap out of my body, and I was like it, it was a
Right.
very weird experience. And eventually, I think that's when the seed was planted. That's when I
Hmm.
understood that something is different about me, my family,
Yes.
her,
Yes.
and since then it went with me.
Hmm.
And I think
Hmm.
the the most meaningful moment where I understood that I want to work in this field and to be a professional in this field happened when I was in Canada, the great country of Canada. Um, and I was a shaliach there. I don't know if you know the term shaliach, but it's kind of an emissary, a
Okay.
person who is sent from Israel to a Jewish community abroad and brings them a lot of joy and
I
and
think
teaches Hebrew.
that comes very naturally to you.
I, I don't know. I was talking about the Holocaust a lot, so I don't think joy was the main value, my main contribution. But then I understood
It's
that
your aura, Itai. It's your aura.
oh, okay.
Or
Thank you,
maybe
Beth.
it's the
It's
7-week-old baby.
maybe it's the lack of sleep. I suspect. Um, but then in Canada, I mean, the most popular lecture that people ask from us to give, from me and my partner, we were both shlichim, we were both emissaries. Um, so they asked us to speak about the Holocaust, and it forced me to learn more than what I knew. It was already 7 years ago. It forced me to learn more than what I knew, and then to deliver it in front of them. And that's when I understood that this topic fascinates me, and that I have enough energy, enough stamina, and I guess enough emotional intelligence to convey these messages, and to do something good with it, not just to be occupied about what's wrong and how sad it is, but to also use the empowering ingredient that the Holocaust has for the world, and to build to help build a better future with it. When I came back to Israel after that experience, it was already very easy. I went to the ghetto fighter's house, started guiding, and it's history since then.
How many people live at the ghetto fighter's house in the kibbutz?
The kibbutz, it's maybe 400 families. It's
Oh,
uh,
it's big.
it's a rather
Hmm.
yeah, I guess it's a big kibbutz.
Sure.
It has it has a very interesting past. I mean, the whole place, the whole space is a museum of some sort, because they have an amazing historic orientation to their lives. I mean, every little path is a symbol to something that the founders did or the founders built, and it's quite incredible to visit that place, and also to learn about how the generations, the founders and the following generations, decided to invest funds and energy and efforts to preserve that unique past, that unique story, and to support the museum, to support everything that is happening there. It's like a communal project for them. Although today we are an independent NGO that operates by its own.
Sure. And
its
do
own.
you, if your grandmother's 93, she would have been in and around 15 years old when she survived the Holocaust. So is it possible? Are there any survivors and some of the people that actually established ghetto fighters that are still living in the kibbutz today?
Just to be accurate, my grandmother is not a member of the kibbutz. She knows a lot of the people who lived there and who founded it. And she even gave her testimony there numerous times. But she's not from there. And today, I don't think that there are any survivors that basically, no, I don't think that any of the founders is still alive.
Right.
There are some people who were still alive who arrived in the 50s and were shoulder to shoulder with the founders, but they are also quite old. So
Sure. And tell us about the
that
art. Tell us about the archives that you have.
yes, I see Alyssa
Yeah, I know. I
is
love
asking
it.
us to talk about the archive. The archive is basically the cornerstone of the museum. The first part, which the founders decided to establish in 1949, was the archive. They had one building, it wasn't really a building, it was kind of uh, something very like a shack. It was a little shack. All of them were sleeping in tents outside in the open space. And in that shack, they divided it to two. On one part, they placed the babies, for the babies to have a warm space to sleep in. And on the other part, they placed their documents, the photos, the artifacts, the museum. So this was their state of mind. They from the very beginning, they thought about commemorating and giving it such a place of respect. I mean, they gave up on their needs in order to host those documents out of the
Establish, sure.
yeah.
Their
It's
legacy.
amazing.
That's
Yeah. So
incredible.
that archive since then collected more than 2.5 million items. It's one of the biggest archives in the world. And I believe that we hold some of the most rare documents and artifacts, mostly that relate to the Chalutz movement, to the Zionist movements, different Zionist movements. And also we have some of the, I guess, the rarest, but also the most meaningful museal items. That, for example, we have a model of Treblinka. We have a model of Treblinka at the death camp that was built by the carpenter who survived Treblinka, by the same person who built houses, who built shacks in the camp. He survived and managed to come 14 years after he survived in 1959, come into the ghetto fighter's house, into the basement, and build a model of the same camp he escaped, he survived. For 9 months, he built that camp. And just to understand or to give some context, 870,000 people were murdered in Treblinka. Jews were murdered in Treblinka. 67 people survived. One of them was that Yaakov Viernik, who survived and managed to escape and come to Israel and build the model and tell his story. And it's so unique because Treblinka was destroyed in the end of 1943. So
This is incredible. I mean, what Ghetto Fighters House represents and what is there for other people to come and participate in and learn from. It's mind-boggling. What is next for you guys? What is something that you need to have put out there into the ether that you guys need support in, that you need help with? How can people become engaged to help you realize the next dream that Ghetto Fighters House has? What obstacles do you need to overcome? How can we help you?
Okay, wow. So first, we have to understand that being an independent NGO in Israel these days, after the COVID effects and after everything that attacked us in this past few years, we narrowed down our staff 50%. So today we are on the verge of breaking. This is what it is. My CEO doesn't like me to present things that like this because he believes that we have to demonstrate the power that we hold, and we do hold a lot of power, but we are also struggling. It's almost impossible to keep our heads above water. So every help of that sort is obviously wanted.
So Ben,
We have a lot of sorry.
I just want to interrupt for 1 second. If there's anyone in the chat who's listening right now, I don't know how to do it on my phone, but if anybody can just put a link into the Ghetto Fighters House for other people, and when I repost,
so our website, we have a donation page.
Yes, and when I post it on our YouTube and when I post it on our website, I will make sure that link is in there so that people can go and support what you're doing. But please continue.
And the other thing is also obviously to participate. We have a lot of online programs. We have an amazing lecture series or a talk series, which is called Talking Memory. This is where I hosted Rachel. And I didn't mention how I met her, but it's also an interesting story. So I invite everyone to participate in our online events. And also next week we have Yom HaShoah, the National Memorial Day for the Holocaust and heroism, and the Ghetto Fighters' role in that capacity is well, this is also a piece of history. The Ghetto Fighters' founders were the first to commemorate the Holocaust in Israel. So in April 1949, they already held a ceremony for the memory of the fallen, for the heroism of the uprisers, and for the sake of the future. And since then, it happens every year. Every year there's a closing assembly which closes the events of the Holocaust Memorial Day. And this year, because of COVID and all that, same as last year, we can't host it in our huge amphitheater that we have next to our museum, and I invite everyone to watch the drone shots of the museum's campus. It's pretty remarkable. So we usually host the ceremony there, but this year it will be broadcasted.
Of course.
On national TV, but also online. So look for the links on our Facebook page, on our
Great.
on
So
social
people
networks.
They need to subscribe. They need to follow you on Facebook, follow you here on Instagram. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think you have your own YouTube channel also, isn't that right?
Yes, we do.
Yes,
we do.
Yes. And so Talking Memory is an extraordinary series that I encourage everyone to follow, subscribe. Yeah. It's
we actually
beautiful.
managed to bring some big names to come and talk on our platform, and more big names are willing to come voluntarily, which is amazing. Very important people that have a lot to say in regards to Holocaust memory, obviously.
Well, it is my honor to have you here on Banter with Beth. Thank you so much for coming, for taking the time. I'm sure you had a sleepless night last night with the baby. And I mean, 7 weeks old, Mazel Tov.
I have a day off tomorrow. I have a day off. It's Passover.
Good. And we will post, we will share. And I hope that everyone can follow you next week with Yom HaShoah. I'm also speaking next week. I have 3 different events. On Wednesday, I'm speaking with Temple Sholem in Chicago. Thursday, my mother and I together are speaking at Sinai Congregation in Chicago. And then on Friday, I'm speaking at Am Shalom in Glencoe, all to commemorate Yom HaShoah, which is such an important opportunity for us to celebrate the heroes and to remember and never forget, period. You know, these are easy things for us to say, but there's truth behind it. And if we can actually take a moment and stop and pause and really think about why we're doing what we're doing, I know that we'll all have, even though we can't be physically together, we will all have a meaningful experience. And I wish you so much luck. Please stay in touch. You know,
Yes, this was lovely. So
I
yeah,
can't wait to come
I will
visit.
do that.
I cannot.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Whenever you're in Israel,
I would
come
just
for a tour and hummus. This is what I promise everyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Itai. It's wonderful to meet you. And
Wonderful to be here. Thank you. Take care.
And next time I have to hear the story about how you and Rachel met. And then of
Yes,
course there's the other
we'll do that.
There's the other connection. I want to know how Rachel met Julie Lindahl, because I just finished Julie Lindahl's book, Pendulum, last week. So it's all just, you know,
well, you should host her. You should host her as well.
I would
Rachel.
love that. That would be fabulous. That would be fabulous. Well, thank you.
I'll make the
thank you so much for coming on. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Please subscribe to Beth Lane Film. Please go to our website, bethlane.com, and you can see all the different events, different guests that we have coming on. Next week, because I'm speaking 3 times, I don't know if we're having a banter with Beth next week or not. I'll have to ask my segment producer, Mai, who's amazing, and who also was responsible for all the back end of this benefit that we had last night. We had over 300 people attend a benefit for the film Would You Hide Me last night. So we're so close to getting to the finish line, raising money. I know how hard it is to raise money during COVID. And but it's well deserved.
Best of luck with that.
Oh, thank you. But anything we can do, I can do to support you. I would like to do that. And so we've got a full calendar of events happening in April. Wonderful guests. So wonderful to meet you. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.